Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So you were a Christian believer for many, many years.
Yeah.
Your family was Christian as well, or
Yeah.
you were born into it basically.
Relatively, yes.
Can you remember a time when you were not a Christian?
Um, Not particularly. I remember for a while I lived in Wisconsin, and uh, through episodes of divorce, I was with the parent that didn't go to church as regularly. And so I was a little bit more allowed to sort of free will myself, if there is such a thing. Uh, and I was able to kind of evaluate. And I remember thinking, like, there's something wrong with this. I just don't quite get it. I still sort of had an idea there was a God and everything, but I mean, maybe that might be the closest I was to not being a Christian
And
or
how
a
old were you at
believer of
this
some
time?
sort. At the time, I would have been about 15.
15.
Yes.
Okay. And then, how old were you when your parents got divorced, may I ask?
Mm, 8, 7-ish.
Okay. Did did that divorce have a big impact as far as your beliefs in God went?
No,
Not at all? Okay.
not really, no.
Okay. And so what age were you the most serious about God and Christianity, would you say?
Oh, hmm. I remember at 12, I believe, I was baptized. And
Oops.
I'd, I, I'm trying to think of the most serious, and I'm kind of picking like some of the big ones. I remember at 12 being baptized, and I remember sitting outside in the parking lot, thinking, okay, well now I have to do all the right things so I can go to heaven because I know I don't have sins now, but if I do something and fuck up, it's okay to swear, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
But
If
when I
I,
swear, I whisper it, but that's okay because I got kids in the house.
I remember.
Plus, I have
So
Christian baggage that I just kind of like always. But yeah, I'm around a lot of swearers. Trust me.
cool. So when I was 12, I was baptized. I remember sitting in the parking lot thinking, like, I need to be a good Christian sort of person, do whatever I'm supposed to do to get to heaven. There was that time. But I remember specifically, I moved from Wisconsin back to West Virginia, and I was living with my mom. And I started going to church again, like I did at the same church actually, when I was baptized when I was 12. And I became rather serious with it around 18 until about age 21. I was very serious, very involved. And
18 through 21.
yeah, so I'd say that's the most religious I was in my life.
When you were, I'm just curious. When you were baptized, was it sprinkling, dunking, immersion?
Complete immersion.
Okay. So, and what type of church did you used to go to?
They identified as a non-denominational. So they were one of those people that tried to get down to the Bible. They were just like, this is what the Bible says. We are just like the first churches because we are following the Bible. We're not following any sort of creed as best as we can. So I don't know like what they classify as except just to say non-denominational.
Yeah, I went to a lot of non-denominationals as well.
They had no instruments. They had it was immersion. Um,
No instruments.
No instruments. They were very much, not the fun kind of
It
church.
wasn't the type of church where the men were on one side and the women were on the other, was it?
No, they didn't have a separation of men and women like that.
Okay.
Now, like you can couldn't go swimming with the opposite sex.
Oh, wow. See,
I,
I've been in a church where the men and women were separated. I was born and raised Mennonite,
mhm.
and but my home church wasn't like men and women separated. But I were in more. I sometimes went into more conservative Mennonite churches where it was that way. No electricity, men and women separated, and then these old men with white beards and dark, ugly suit jackets would get up there and just start singing. Praise God,
Oh
you know,
shoot.
yeah. It was really scary. But okay, so Were you hurt by the church, Violet? That's a question I always get.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I don't think terribly. Like when I left the church, my religion wasn't conducive to my well-being. So I left my church, but I didn't leave my theism at that point. Um, I do like so I didn't I kind of once I turned 18, my parents were like, you're an adult now, get out of the house. So living in college, I kind of lived at the preacher's place a little bit, and
You lived at the preacher's house?
yeah, I did. And I sort of did that when I was younger too, because I lived with the principal once. I remember when I was like 13-ish.
Are you still in contact with that preacher that you used to live with?
Not on great terms. I try to talk to them a little bit about the religion, and they are just like, "Why can't you just let me believe what I want to believe?" So I don't know.
Do you think that some of the, like this Christian pastor that you're thinking about right now, do you think they ever take some of the blame or feel some of the angst of the fact that you're no longer a believer, that they take responsibility at least a little bit for it?
I don't know that they take the blame for me leaving. Um, I do know that well his mother when I left she had like come and like apologize for we had like a lot of older like sort of people there and some of them were a lot more cranky and they thought maybe I left because people were just cranky. I don't know. Um, so she's like apologizing for her mom cuz or her grandmother actually cuz the preacher sort of lived with their grandmother kind of help her in her later years and as well. I I think he might he well he I remember he in messages would say like just remember please remember like I had forgotten something like so important and then there is that passage about uh, God sort of letting them to their delusions or illusions of some sort. I forget where it is exactly, but so I don't know if he thinks that I just can't remember and God has let me like, go live in my sinful world. And I don't think he particularly blames himself though, no.
Okay. So you
I
you
don't.
meant you mentioned earlier that you had to leave church because of your well-being.
Yes.
What the church was making your well-being not be well?
Yeah, my quality of life was diminished.
So what exactly about church made your quality of life go down?
I was not able to be authentic to myself.
Okay. Can you expand upon that or no?
I think there is a part in the Corinthians, I forget which first or second. I used to know this stuff because it affected me so much. Um, about and we read the King James version, by the way. Just getting that out there. That's the only version.
Oh.
Uh, but there was something about the effeminates, and they shall not inherit the kingdom of heaven.
Oh.
And men shall have short hair because it is a shame for them, but women have long hair because it is to their glory, I believe. Or um, and a lot of stuff about that in the LGBT that didn't allow me to be authentic to myself.
I see. So you left the church, and did anybody come after you? Meaning
I
like,
pretty much let myself, actually, I intentionally fell off the radar. I think people have a right to disappear. So
was there
I,
a part of you though that wished somebody would have chased after you and said, "Violet, come back, come back."
I didn't think it was possible because I think the religion I was in
Just
was so conservative and just for example, when I left, I left with the knowledge that I'm just going to go to hell, and that's what I believed,
oh, so
and for a long time.
you were basically accepting that fact that you were doomed for hell?
Yes,
Wow.
it was pretty serious, leaving for my own well-being. And it really goes to say something about, how what position I was in to
You know, I
choose.
was a similar way where I basically resigned my to the fact where I just can't believe this anymore. But if it's true, I guess I'm just going to hell, and so be it. It's just,
Mhm.
and so I can relate with you a little bit with that. But as time went on, I'm 99.9999% sure there is no hell. So I'm not,
I'm of the same opinion.
yeah. So, but if there's a hell, I guess I'll be in good company. You'll be there, and
Bonus. I feel like.
oh, if Christians are watching this right now, they're just cringing. Um, So did you, when you left the church, no one came after you, you felt that church was too conservative to even want anybody to come after you. Did you desire to seek out another church?
No, I couldn't bring myself to it. And actually, there was a few people who would talk to me about like, oh, come to our church, or, there are other churches out there that believe other things, more conducive to your well-being. Um, Sorry, I think I have an ant here. Feel it walking around. Anyway.
Okay, so you basically had no desire.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I got distracted. So I couldn't bring myself to believe something that was different. I fully believed what I was raised in that church, in a sense, and that sort of doctrine and that interpretation, and I couldn't choose to interpret it any differently. And even now, sometimes, and I read the Bible or I hear other people talk about it, and I can separate myself now more so from that interpretation, but I still think, well, that's what that means, even though I've heard so many other things now. No, what really was said here was this, and like, oh yeah, I could see that. Or sometimes it's just like you can read the same passage for the same thing, but like I couldn't separate from my own internalized interpretation of the Bible, so much so that I couldn't even seek out another church.
Yeah, just hang on a second. We're getting a comment in the chat that Randimals wants me to take my shirt off. Randimals, I will do that at the end of the program. So, okay, at what point though did you say you didn't believe any of it, Christianity, or did at one point you kind of left Christianity and still believed in God, but not that God, or was it a clean break?
It was a progression. So when I was in the religion, I was always asking myself certain questions like why do I believe in my God but not the Greek gods? And I never sort of followed that to its logical conclusion because being in the religion, it was always being reinforced. And then when I left it, I was able to kind of stop that reinforcing and able to kind of more or less function mentally on my own. And so I was very interested in whether or not like there was a God in things and how to validate, and I cared a lot about truth, I think. And so around the time Bill Nye and Ken Hand, his little thing, I watched it, and it did make a great impact on me, except it just left me,
Well, you were a
not
Christian when
really.
you watched that?
I was a fallen Christian, maybe I should put it. Like I wasn't going to church, but I still believed in my theology. But I was open to information. I wanted to know. And so, after that, like I wasn't terribly impressed by Ken Ham, and I I wasn't an atheist, or I didn't convert immediately because no one really changes all that fast normally. It's sort of slow and very private. And and then I started watching like, well, atheists. I want to watch atheists and see what they say. What are their ideas? And I mean, I felt like it was I should allot them the time of day to kind of see what they say, along with Christians, along with my belief I still held at the time. And so I watched some channels and things, and I would absorb it. Then I kind of go away for a month or two or three, and come back, and I'd go away, and it just was a slow progression of sort of losing confidence. And I don't think I was even fully aware of it. And at times, I'm sure I just sort of believed in belief, and then eventually about 2 years ago, I think, I had this spike in just like realizing, oh my gosh, I don't believe this anymore. And it's been a little more recent that I can say that maybe in the past year that I am an atheist.
Yeah, same with me. I don't think I verbally used the A word until probably a
Yeah,
year and a half ago. Year and a half ago. Interesting.
it's been this very slow sort of moving along the scale.
It's amazing how when you eliminate confirmation bias, how
Hmm.
things do progress faster. Like if you're a doubting believer but you're constantly going back to church or your Christian friends or whatever, you get fed, that confirmation. And but if you cut that off, it's you can start
Yeah.
thinking for yourself, right? Yes.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm. It's been a long day, so I'm just like wore out. I still want to. I'm able to do this, but
I was going to. So you become an atheist about a year ago, and you get into street epistemology. I want to talk about that a little bit
sure.
because I do street epistemology too,
You do?
a little bit. Yeah, besides
What's your
dancing,
channel? I should watch it.
you're on it right now. Um, and so, why do you do it? Why do you do street epistemology? Why can't you just leave
I
people alone?
I care about people, and people's actions affect me. And it's something I said to someone the other day. Um, and it's sort of an appropriation of something Matt Dillahunty says is that, but I appropriate it, of course. So, um, epistemologies influence beliefs, which in turn guide actions. And so, if people hold beliefs that aren't true, I think there's value in holding true beliefs, or at least in turn guide what we can say is most likely true, most likely uh, reports to being the best model of reality. Uh, so, and people don't change their beliefs immediately, and especially whenever you attack them, why do you believe these things, and how can you be so stupid? And so I kind of ran across epistemology, and it seemed like a really soft firebrand sort of way to just sort of talk to people about beliefs and maybe help them along. Because I know from my experience, it seems like religious beliefs and superstition tend to be very mentally abusing. I think people are just really harmed by these beliefs, and I care a lot about people. Even more now that I'm an atheist, I think, than when I was a Christian, which is sort of
Isn't that
funny for
funny
me.
how that? Yeah,
Yeah.
I can relate with you there. So, what would you say is one disadvantage of street epistemology? One bad thing about it?
Too many letters. I'm kidding.
Too long of a name.
No, it is challenging to learn, I think, uh, for some people more than others. It took me a little while. I'm still sort of learning the pauses in between, like letting people talk and reflect a little bit. Um, so,
But
was the question the worst thing?
from the theist point of view, though, what do you see as a possible negative about street epistemology?
For someone who might not be as trusting, it might be seen as sort of condescending, uh, uh, maybe. So if I'm trying to talk to someone about a belief and how do you know what you know? I mean, that sort of seems like a passive aggressive, sort of condescending, perhaps maybe to someone who isn't as trusting.
Yeah,
So maybe that's a negative. Why can't you just speak to me plainly?
yeah, yeah. I hear you there. It's oftentimes, I can say that I don't want to make assumptions about you, so this is why I'm asking this question. I can say
Hmm.
that. However, I'm pretty confident I know the answer before I ask the question, but I will still ask the question. And so that can kind of filter through, and they might perceive that. And so I think the disadvantage of street epistemology is you have to be You have to really build up rapport. So, like you said, trust. So they trust you within that conversation, and you have to try to find things that you can sincerely be sincere about. Like ask questions, or I like to tell stories as well. And
Hmm.
so I'll throw in storytelling in with the question. So oh, you. So they'll say something, then I'll tell a story about what they just said, and then they can relate to me, right? And so it becomes more of a dialogue instead of a interrogation interview. And that's another
Yeah.
kind of con to SE. Some people might view it as an interrogation almost.
I was just in Pittsburgh today, and a good story for that. I talked to someone about a belief that they held, and they were talking about how dirty the river was. Because we were on the point right there when you come out of the Liberty Tunnel, like, and it was really loud, and the water fountain and everything. If you've ever been to Pittsburgh, and we were talking about how dirty the water is, and then the next few people I got to talk to people about. I gave them the options, like, just a little bit ago, I talked to someone how dirty the water is. Like that was the belief they wanted to discuss. So it's sort of like, and it's where you live, so it's right there. Let's talk about something. It's sort of playful and
Yeah.
sort of like, I don't know, just sort of common, maybe like more homey, uh, to talk about things when
Have
you
you
can
ever
kind of.
done street epistemology with a atheist before?
Yes, although I don't think anyone so far has said that they were atheists. Most of them say, like, I don't identify as an atheist, even though I realize the term applies to me because, like, they're just so condescending or they're just so superior. Those atheists online, I don't, something about them that doesn't gel with them for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. When
But yeah, no, there are definitely people like who have told me they're on the zero, and I've asked them how they know there is no God and things, but.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to a couple as well, and I've converted a few Gnostic atheists to agnostic atheists, and I've converted a few deists to atheists
Mhm.
on Blab. I think I've let me check my notebook. Yeah, I think I'm about around 15 conversions, deconversions, or however you want to view it. But
Three sets of hands.
but I've also led about 30 people on Blab to Christ. So I've had a lot of people tell me that
Wow.
because of my questions, I've deepened their belief. So,
Yeah.
do you ever get that?
I don't, I think maybe. I'm not really sure how many people have truly changed their beliefs one way or the other because of the talks I've had. I haven't had too many people come back and tell me that they've changed. I've had a few people where I normally do my epistemology is I'm on this trail and it's just like a really long trail. And generally people park somewhere, they walk, and then they come back. And so I can sometimes get them going out, and then they'll come back for like a little review, and they'll tell me what they thought of it a little bit if they really enjoyed it. And so I've heard like people have moved on the scale a little bit, or they really enjoyed the conversation. They thought about it while they were walking, but nothing too concrete to know, how people have been truly affected.
Do you have any siblings?
I have two and a half.
And are they believers?
I believe my brother is my youngest brother, who is a half brother. I don't know whether he's old enough, but I don't know whether he's old enough. I honestly haven't seen him in since years.
Yeah, I was just going to
Um,
ask you if you've tried doing SE with your family.
my sister, but because we still communicate, and she is now an atheist because of me.
Oh, you're going to hell for sure.
When I left religion, actually, it was one of the things I like said to myself is like, even though I am going to hell, I don't want to be a stumbling block for other people. So I'm just gonna sort of separate myself. And since then, I've lost that idea.
Yeah, I had a really great talk with my sister, who's a little bit older than me, and I'm 45.
Hmm.
And I had had two talks with her, and it's interesting how she's changed just from two conversations,
Hmm.
where now she's actually encouraging me to do more of what I'm doing. because her thing is she used to be a fundamentalist Christian just like me, but
Hmm.
now she's sort of like I don't know what to call her. I guess liberal Christian, and she really dislikes fundamentalism now, and so
Hmm.
so she's and I tend to talk to a lot of fundamentalists. I'm a fundamentalist magnet, I guess, and so she's encouraged me keep doing it and keep being gentle and kind and so forth, but make them question their certainty and for her to admit that she has doubts and that not being certain about something is not bad is a huge change in her.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the one video I've seen so far on your channel. Is just for like, do you just tell me how confident you are, how much you believe, like whether you just say I believe snakes talked or that was
Yes.
just so fascinating.
Yeah, the Christian challenge. Oh boy, I've had a lot of interesting comments in the YouTube section on that video, and a pretty famous apologist took that challenge, that James White
Hmm.
guy. And but yeah, that challenge was fascinating to me because basically the challenge was say what you believe without explaining it, without qualifying it. Just say it. And it is so difficult for a Christian to just say, "I believe in talking snakes.
Yes.
I believe Jonah lived in a great fish for 3 days. I believe that God said to stone kids."
At one time, did you believe all the things that you're talking about? Or
Yes.
most of them? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not
I
the Jonah one because even the Christians say that it's
oh,
oh
I believed that when I was
you were yeah I
I
so
did.
a lot I don't know what the percentages are, but a lot of Christians think that it's what do you call it,
Metaphor?
analogy, a metaphor,
Okay.
yeah. But
Nope, I believed it.
yeah. So, and I have a challenge for Muslims, and a couple of Muslims have told me that they will take the challenge, but they're busy right now. But what's going to be really interesting if they do take the challenge is whether or not they will feel the need to explain, give context,
Hmm.
qualify all the things on the Muslim challenge. And what I will end up doing if that happens is I'll do a
Hmm.
side by side. And my guess is the explanations from the Christians are going to be very similar to the explanations from the Muslims
Hmm.
on how they can justify or explain why
That'll
they
be really interesting.
how kind of weird these beliefs are, but how they still hold them. So I'm looking forward to seeing if I'm right about that, if the explanations will be very similar, and I'm sure they will be. It'll be like got to understand the context, the culture of the day, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But your God still said this. So, but would you ever consider doing SE the way I'm doing it, like just completely online video?
You know, I drive a lot, and so maybe in a sense something similar. I've thought about getting one of those radios that, truck drivers have, or what are those old ham radios?
Yeah.
I've considered that and just recording them and just having SE conversations over, the it's crossed my mind.
Do you love Jesus? Over. That's a 10-4 over. Yeah, that's funny. You should do it.
Oh, that would be great.
Wonder what percentage of truck drivers are believers. Yeah, maybe I'm just a wimp, a wuss, a scaredy cat because I live very close to a university, and I probably could go, but then I'd have to buy like a GoPro, and I'd have to like I'd have to be as good as Anthony Magnabosco, and the pressure, it's just so I don't know if, and then you have to get in your car and wear deodorant and I'm kidding. I wear deodorant at home. I do.
Your poor wife.
No, I smell fresh as a daisy.
Yeah, no, for me, like I had most of that stuff already with like something else, another channel. The only thing I need to get was like the straps and everything, like to hold the camera. And then I just bought a little whiteboard and a little timer and marker. That was it.
But to be honest, I think I am a little sick because I do prefer talking to older people.
Mhm.
I kind of enjoy talking to the most closed-minded, staunch believer you can imagine. I actually enjoy talking to the precepts. They frustrate me sometimes, but it seems
Yeah.
like I always go back for more. And yeah, the King James only type people.
Hmm.
It's like I like the challenge.
I
I
think I would have been one of your conversation go-getter people. You would have wanted me. And too, I think I would have been a really good one because I mean, I to some degree, I think I was doxastically open. I remember being young. I just kind of give some idea about how inquisitive I was. I used to want to be Sherlock Holmes when I grew up. I thought he was amazing. Like, it's elementary, Joe Watson. Just go and find the evidence and know the truth.
But here's the thing about talking with or asking questions of young people. And I don't know if you saw the Ray Comfort, the latest documentary or whatever you want to call it that he had.
Oh,
But he,
is it? Oh, go on. Yeah, I think
you know what I'm talking about?
I watched the Bible Reloaded, so I've seen half of it so far, I think.
So what I was thinking about, oh, I just noticed I said the word so. I got to stop saying that.
Me too.
I was thinking about how Ray Comfort was going basically on a university campus asking questions. It was basically as seen the opposite way in a way. And these kids didn't know anything. They
And
just
some of them are like older people too, I've seen.
oh yeah, and maybe that's right. But and I can't help but think maybe it's the same problem with SEers that we know.
I bet he's doing a lot of cherry picking though.
Yeah, that's true too. Um, yeah, that's a
How
very
many
good point.
hours he's had to spend doing that. And I think I don't really honestly watch a lot of his stuff. I've just seen a few things from because I've watched it on an atheist channel. And so he seems to be doing that more and more lately, is going out and finding people the worst, like sort of
Yeah,
uneducated, just not they don't understand their position and they just
but
want
I just don't want to be viewed the same way as Ray Comfort. Is my point. Like I don't want
yeah.
people to say, "Oh, Doug, you're just picking on these young Christians who really don't know anything and they haven't
Yeah,
really
I
haven't really thought about these things." So I think that's another part of the reason why I go for the probably people closer to my age.
the people who's supposed to be the most spiritually wise.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't say closer to my age because I'm 45, but 30 or older, you know, adults or 27 and older, I should say,
Hmm.
because you're 27, right?
I am? No, no, I'm
Sorry, I shouldn't give away your age.
oh, it doesn't matter, honestly.
But okay, well, yeah, I wanted to uh, get you on here because you came on to the SC Facebook group, and I knew nothing about you,
Hmm.
and we talked a little bit on election night, and so and you just seemed very, what's the word? Ebullient? Is that a good word? Ebullient?
I actually don't have that in my local mental
How
repertoire.
about effervescent?
Oh, sorry.
No? How about nice?
Yeah, amazing, maybe. I'm awesome.
Yeah, you're awesome. So yeah, I wanted to get to know you and see what your background was, what your past was, and
Yeah.
probably what would you say? At least half of the people within that group used to be former believers.
Yeah. I don't really know too well, but yeah, I've heard enough people say that they believe, and I would imagine half of them tend to be. I think too, because we empathize so much with Christians, because we really feel sort of not maybe in a sense obligated, but just we need to help these people. I mean, we were worth someone else's time, and I feel that they are worth my time.
And I want people to see that after you leave a deeply held belief like Christianity or Islam or whatever, that you don't become this wretched human being who murders and steals and rapes and pillages and it's like there's life after religion, right? There's life after
Yeah.
this deeply held belief where people like us are genuinely happy and and content and peaceful. And sure, we have ups and downs like any other human being, but
Yeah.
it's not like our world has ended and we're just waiting to die and considering suicide every minute because we don't fear heaven or hell. It's just
Yeah.
we're normal people with normal passions and desires and hopes and dreams and good days and bad days.
I have a lot less fewer existential crises.
Yeah, me too. It's so bizarre how I don't fear things like I used to.
Hmm.
Like I do not fear death as well. Everybody fears death, but I don't fear it as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I don't. I used to like pray every night that bad people wouldn't come break into my home and hurt me and my family.
Hmm.
Those thoughts after I left Christianity are gone. And well, not gone, but I'm sure I'm a realist. That could happen, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's to the point where I see the world the way it is and realize that it's possible but not probable.
So, why did you think, as a Christian, that people were going to break into your house and you had to pray for that not to happen?
Because the great question, but I have a great answer. Because
Okay. I'm really interested. I want to know why people are breaking into your home as a Christian.
because of my worldview. My worldview is people are depraved. People are sinful. Pe-
Oh.
People are bad. So when you have that worldview, you are paranoid. You're looking around, and not only that, you believe in the spiritual realm, right? The devils and demons around you, and so you're combating the evilness of the world and the evilness of the some spirit dominion. It just messes with your brain, and
Yeah.
when you let go of that, your fear of all these things just goes down, down, down.
At
Eh,
least for you and I, there are plenty of people who still wake up in terror of a hell and things, which I feel really bad for them.
Yeah,
But
I guess you're right. But then they feel the terror of hell because still partially believe it,
yeah,
and sometimes it takes a lot of years to get rid of that baggage.
yeah,
Yeah, I still
a
have
lot of
baggage on some things.
mental, a lot of mental abuse.
hmm I tell the story about my daughter often that she goes through that. She's not really a believer. In
Hmm.
fact, I would say she isn't, but she does fear hell, and because my wife's a believer, and I have to be careful.
At least it wasn't an ant in your ear.
Yeah. Um, and so there's times where she'll almost go into a panic attack where she just is paralyzed with fear about this concept of hell, and whenever she feels like she could die.
Mhm.
And it's just a horrible thing to see a young person go through.
I uh, I don't know how close to the end we are, but it's hard for non-believers. Like, you hear people, did they really believe it? Do you really believe it? Did you really believe it? And I always like telling this story about um sort of being closed and unable to think clearly. I was at the Creation Museum. I went there twice, by the way. I know you already know this because you've already heard this story. But
I'll play like I don't know what you're talking about. Creation Museum? You
okay,
went there?
big eyebrows. And so I went there twice, and the second time I was there, I was thinking to myself because I was always sort of trying to figure out my religion. I was like, why? Okay, so obviously evolution is wrong because I'm a young Earth creationist. Why is it wrong? I have to figure it out. I feel like I'm smart enough. I'm not an idiot. I can think this through this in my head and figure out why it's wrong and come to a reasonable hypothesis. So I was thinking about it, and I don't know whether I came to this idea through sort of an osmosis of my environment or people around me, whether I came to it on my own. It seems to me I came to it on my own, but as I get further and further away from my religion, It's sometimes harder and harder to put on the God glasses and just really remember and reflect about that time. But I still sort of can remember things and think about times, but such as this. So I came to this idea that's like, well, we can't have a male dog and a female dog, and they both evolve at the same time, at the same place, and they get together and they shag together, and you can't have that. That's the numbers for that is just astronomical. It'd be crazy. And I thought, like, well, I'm at the Creation Museum, and this is probably a pretty safe place for me to bounce this hypothesis off someone. And so I was in some section halfway through, and I found my perfect opportunity. I kind of mentioned it to someone who is sort of looking at one of the pictures as if it was an art gallery, and sort of looked like they're reflecting on it a little bit. And so I'm kind of standing there next to him, looking like kind of inquisitive towards this picture. And I mentioned something, and then I sort of insert that in there a little bit, and he said something that to this day I will never know because the moment he said it, I just went dumb. I couldn't hear. I know it was something that was not confirming what I just said. It was something,
Wait a minute.
it's just
This Christian, was it a Christian at the Creation Museum who said something to you about evolution?
I suspect it was either an atheist or I don't even know because honestly I don't know what they said, but it just was something that was like wasn't what would confirm my belief at the time. It was something anti, what I just said. It wasn't.
So he caused you to doubt.
Yes, yes. It wasn't
This is
counter
amazing.
apologetic. Yeah, yeah. It was like,
Violet becomes an atheist at the Creation Museum.
yeah. Well, that little speck right there kind of put the little seed in my shoe.
That's
So
fascinating. You know, this is.
I,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know whether it was exactly counter apologetics or whether it was like sort of an SE sort of question, but it was just something that just put that doubt in me. And I was like, but even so, the big doubt really didn't really quite come from his question so much as my response. So when he said it, it immediately went one ear and out the other. I don't know what he said, and I was so embarrassed to ask, like, could you repeat that? Because whatever it said was like, this doesn't conform to your worldview. It's just eject it, go, go,
Hmm.
go.
Yeah.
And it bothered me so much, and even to this day, it
It,
doesn't
it
bother me as much now, but
it bothered you at the
didn't.
time that you
Yeah,
actually basically refused to listen to him in a way, like
yes,
maybe even subconsciously.
against my will, yeah, against my intention. I just couldn't hear what he said, and so it always stuck with me.
Yeah,
So it's a good forward for SE.
yeah, I get that a lot where I just feel like I'm not being heard by theists, that I can say something and it just goes in one ear out the other, and they're loading up the gun to fire their next point to me with.
The armor of God.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about SE. Let's talk about the positives of SE, is that it forces you to really listen and repeat back what they're saying to you, and then ask a question based upon that.
Yeah.
And so instead of just, you know, thinking ahead of your next question, you should base your next question based on what they just said.
And that's challenging.
It is challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially on the fly.
Yeah, it is. I'm getting better at it slowly and slowly on the street epistemology, but yeah, no, definitely, I get what you mean by like, yeah, it's so challenging just being on the spot. You'll notice, like for example, my next video that I'll hopefully be uploading, I put some captions at the end for my questions because I worded it sort of on the spot so poorly in some that I just want to make sure people kind of can read it so they can better understand what it will be saying.
So what's your let's plug your YouTube channel.
Oh, cool. Which
What's
one? I'm kidding. Street Violet epistemology.
Violet? I'll put it in the chat here. Not
Cool.
violent, Violet.
Yes, Violet.
Okay. So if they just type that into YouTube, they'll find you.
Yep, Violet epistemology. I only have 3 videos right now, but you'll kind of recognize me. I have little red hair in it. That was the hair I had for a little while.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go black hair for when I dress up like a woman.
Back in black.
Yeah, my wife has a black wig, I think, so long hair.
Oh,
Oh,
so yeah. Oh, that's right. Donald did lose, and that's what. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
What color dress did you say you were gonna let them pick, or were you gonna go with like blue, like I was talking about?
I still don't know what color dress I'm gonna wear, but my goal is to look so hot that the Reformed Army guys will be attracted to me.
Are you gonna get like padding and everything? So it's gonna be like one of those like pencil skirts. So it's gonna come kind of form to you, and you're gonna have like little hips there,
Oh,
and
I don't need padding. What are you talking about? I already got it. Or where were you thinking I needed padding?
oh, and your hips, like because you want to widen them a little bit.
Yeah, I guess.
So you get like a little like it's like it kind of comes in
Hourglass.
curves, and then yeah,
Yeah. Well, I don't want
like
to.
this, just the horizon, just and then
I don't know. I don't want the precept Calvinists to stumble too badly, but
you're gonna like turn around and you'll be like a helicopter because they're so wide. And then
that's a good idea.
they just
Yeah, I Anthony Cesario already asked me like yesterday. Uh, he was pushing me. Okay, you got to do this, and but so I got to do it soon. Probably it might even be this weekend. So pay attention. If I do it, I will live stream it here on YouTube. I will look hot, and I guess I'll maybe change my name to what? Um, what's it good?
Starshika.
No, what's it has to kind of sound like Doug.
Oh,
Dugath, Dugatha,
uh, Debbie.
Dillery,
Hillary.
Dillery.
Douglas. Douglas.
Yeah, Douglassy.
Douglasity.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know.
But you know,
Yeah, okay.
I know you need to go to bed, so or Skype or
Yeah,
whatever you need to do. So,
I don't know.
but I really
Thank you
appreciate
so
you coming
much.
on and
Yeah.
talking with me. And I will probably have the replay up in an hour or so.
Okay.
Okay, take care.
You too. Peace.
Bye.